you go to another country, you are a guest. You have zero rights. You are a guest. What my rights are in Canada do not apply when I go to the States.
You have to decide to what degree you will, I guess, exonerate yourself by cooperating, really. And that's personal preference, right? So maybe some people, their privacy is important to them. They don't want to give that up. Hi, we are Learn Online Security Podcast. I'm Tamara Michèle, your host, and I am joined by Chris Howell. How are you doing, Chris?
Doing wonderful.
One of the founding members of this whole production. So always great to have you on the show. I love to pick your brain because you're
have time.
Because you're the IT guy. So you have a totally different perspective from a lot of people that I know. So yeah, it's really great. So today we're going to do something a little bit different in the aspect that it was brought to my attention. There's been some articles in the news recently regarding travel and security. And a lot of people were really upset about this. So I'm just going to kind of paraphrase. It was a CNN article. And in it, the Canadian government was warning Canadian citizens when they travel to the U.S. that they need to be aware that their phones, any technological device, an iPad, a computer, a phone, can be searched when you go to cross the border. And so people didn't realize that. They just assumed as they were traveling as Canadians and they're Canadian citizens that maybe it was a right not to have that stuff searched. And we're going to explore that a little bit more because when you travel to any country, and I know from my travel experience, you can be searched at any time. I mean, people don't realize to the extent that you can be searched. When you travel to another country, well, what is it that you said?
You're a guest. And I'm going to knock this right out right away. I don't care if you're Canadian, American, Zimbabwean, from the British Isles, French, Russian, Ukrainian, Spanish, Dutch, German, Icelandic, Norwegian, Danish. It doesn't matter. When you go to another country, you are a guest. You have zero rights. You are a guest. What my rights are in Canada do not apply when I go to the States. Vice versa, my colleagues in the States, when they come here, if the police pull them over, they just can't say, well, I'm American. Doesn't matter.
So the
no
laws
different
of the land,
if me and my
right?
colleagues go to England and the police pull us over there, we can't say, well, we're from North America. They'll look at us and still cuff us and put us in the appropriate place.
Like they say in law, right? Ignorance of the law is no excuse, right, for breaking a law. If you don't know that it's a law and you're traveling in another country, not knowing that it's the law and breaking it is not an excuse. And you don't get, there's no get out of jail free card, right?
Where I'm going with this, though, is regardless of where you are, unless you're in your home nation, you are a guest. And part of the reason why this is going very high in the news is the law changes in the States. And a lot of Canadians, they're feeling really, really offended. Like I used to go down, not me personally, but I used to go to Arizona, or I used to go to Florida for the winter. Now I got to be fingerprinted, and I got to be this, and I got to be that. And they're offended. And should they be offended or not offended is irrelevant. These are another country's laws. No different than when people from the States come to Canada. I don't care if you have a conceal and carry permit. Your firearm, you can't carry it on you in Canada.
Correct.
It gets locked up, put away. You need to have special permission to even bring that firearm into Canada. You're not entitled to it because, well, you're American and your Second Right Amendment or whatever the amendment says that you're allowed to have it. No, you left your nation. You now have to live by another nation's rules. And once that settles in, it'll help us kind of clear up the rest of this topic.
Well, and I think that people have to remember that our electronic devices, especially our phones, where we are doing social media, we are emailing, we are phoning, we are texting, there's a lot of information about who we are and what we do and the circles that we're in I would think that if you're a Canadian citizen that has, say, very little social media and you have no criminal record and you're a good citizen and you're just going there for a trip and you're honest with the Border Patrol officers, you're not going to run into too much trouble. If they want to search your phone, you let them search your phone, right? And then they will decide whether you have entrance or not.
Exactly. And that's the key word. Once they ask for your electronic device, you really only have two options. Give it to them or return home.
And so at that point, you're still allowed to, if you were like, okay, well, I've put off, I don't want to go to America now anyway, or whatever country that you're going to. So it's a lot different. Like if you've got on a plane and traveled all the way to Europe and then you're at the customs and then they want to, you know, whatever it is that they want to do to research who you are, to look into it, to check your phone.
And this is one of the things that's actually
people
coming up.
People don't realize it. Hey,
this is like flying out of Canada has its advantages if you're going to the States or if you're coming from the States into Canada, because both countries have the Border Patrol right there. Your declaration is done before you even get on the plane, right? So if I'm flying out of, I'm going to pick Calgary because it's an international airport. If I'm flying out of Calgary and I go into primary and they say, I want your phone, and I have somebody standing behind me and I'm like, you're not getting my phone, here's my phone, and I hand it back. It doesn't leave, it goes with whoever brought me or whatever else. Give me your phone. No, I'm not unlocking my phone for you. Then the phone can't come into the States. Okay. And like you say, let's take Spain, fly all the way to Spain. I'm not giving you my phone. Well, then it can't come into the country. You have to forfeit it so it can be sent back. Okay. Spanish government's under no obligation to return it to you. Spanish government, just because you said you can't go through my phone doesn't mean that they're going to find some way to break it open and go through your phone.
Yeah, because they have IT people.
And let's face it, if they really, really, really want to, let's say you really, really want your phone back and you surrendered it to them and said, no, you can destroy it, do whatever you want. It may take upwards of 5 years to get back to you until they decide that they couldn't get into it. So what's easier? I want into your phone. Here you go. Here's my phone. Here's my password. I've unlocked my phone. What do you think they can do once you unlock their phone? What do you think their limitations are?
Well, anything that's accessible, photos, emails, if your emails are open. I'm assuming anything that's open that you're already signed into, they would have access to.
Anything that's open that you're signed into that they can have access to. I'm glad we hit on that point. Anything that is open and they can easily access. I sat in a presentation from U.S. Homeland Security in 2021 on this exact topic. And it was done for IT people. And it was about security, IT, international laws, how things can be transported and not transported. And the rule is simply this. If there is a password beyond the device password, you are not obligated to open it. A banking app, an email that's password protected, any app that's protected by a password, you are not obligated to open it. And this is from Homeland Security out of the United States themselves. The reason for it is once that secondary password passes, that is no longer restricted to the device. That would be like them showing up at your door, knocking on it and saying, yeah, we want to search your house. There is a certain level that they cannot cross, even if you're a guest, because they do not have the right to show up in your home nation, knock on your door and say, hey, we suspect you of something, we want to knock on your door, without your own nation's intervention. Now, there's a big closet there. Mm-hmm. Without your own nation's intervention. So if you show up and they turn around and tell you, you need to go to secondary, we want you to open up these apps. You go to secondary and you stand on your course of legitimacy because I've opened my phone, I don't have to open the apps. and then they bring in an agent from your home country
Then you're
with the appropriate legal forms and rights, you're opening it.
Yeah, and it depends on whether they're using, because there's two different paths for them with the law, right? So they can use like criminal activity.
This extends beyond your phone. What do you think somebody else might bring with them that they could request access to?
What would they bring? Would you bring with? Well, anything you have on your person. They can
a lot
search
of people
your suitcase.
travel with their laptops.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
A lot of people travel with USB drives or dongles or stuff for their pictures.
Yep.
They want it, you have to give it to them.
Yep.
If it's encrypted, that becomes something totally different. And that's a whole line that I'm not going to even cover.
You have to decide to what degree you will kind of, I guess, exonerate yourself by cooperating, really. Right? So if you want to go and it's important, you have a family wedding and you've got nothing to fear because you're not involved in anything, and that's personal preference, right? So some people, their privacy is important to them. And they don't want to give that up because that's a right that they have as a Canadian citizen. So, I mean, I think when it comes down to it, it's just, I guess, remembering that, yes, you're a Canadian citizen. Your Canadian laws and rights only apply to you in Canada. And if you get yourself into trouble or you have any issues in other countries, your only real hope is to go to the embassy and they just negotiate on your behalf, and it's not always successful. So,
you know what? Those are great points. When people travel, I tell them the following. First and foremost, use cloud storage. Put it up in the cloud. Don't have it on your device. You can take it with you. It goes down to that restriction of this is your home. They cannot go to your home and search your home without permission of your national government. Okay. They can't cross that line. Even if they suspect you're a person with foul intent, they can't cross that line. They do not. There's international guidelines for that. They can't just kick in your door because they want to look. And that's a restriction. A court can compel you and say that you have to cooperate. But you've noticed that we've moved up a whole legal level. Mm-hmm. We've moved up to a whole legal level.
Yeah.
And even then, it has to be a court of your own nation that can compel you to do it, not a court of another nation. There's cooperation involved. In the article, I know the one you're talking about, they reference about using quote-unquote burner phones.
So that's basically, burner phone, for people that don't know what a burner phone is, explain that first.
A burner phone is a device that you have no personal attachment to. It's not part of your life. It is something that if you lose it, you don't care. If they take it away, c'est la vie, it's gone. Convenience
stores. It's not tied to your identity,
right? It's not tied to your identity.
You can buy phones any country in the world. You get off the airport, you walk in, you pay. It's like a prepaid cell phone.
Yeah.
Basically.
Prepaid cell phone and off you go. From an IT perspective, there's a whole lot more involved in it, but the basic rules still apply. And I tell everybody the same thing. If you're bringing it with you, it is subject to inspection. If I have a hard drive and they plug that hard drive in and they can't read it, rules get a little bit dicey there because there's something like BitLocker or something where the hard drive is encrypted and it only can be opened at the other end by the computer that has encrypted it. There's a pre-shared key and I won't carry that on me. Mm-hmm. So the rules, again, apply differently. You're traveling, utilize the cloud storage, right? There's Amazon, there's Google, there's OneDrive, there's
Dropbox,
there's North America, but we don't see it much, but there's Alibaba. There's all sorts of cloud storage available to you. Utilize it. The advice I'm giving you is not a get out of jail free card. If you're doing something that you're not supposed to be doing, they're going to get you, regardless of what you're using. Okay? Now, here's some other things to understand. Depending on the nation you attend, if the information goes up on their local servers, their local governments have the right to search it. You are not protected other than the information that's stored in your nation's own servers. You can't. So an example of this that I'm going to give is there was an individual that left Canada, went to the United States, and saved stuff on a prominent search engine, not to get anybody in trouble. Okay. That search engine servers were in the United States.
And when we're saving stuff, we don't know where it's being served or saved. How do you know that? Other than where you're saving it.
Other than where you're saving it. If you're saving
something in the U.S., then it's saved on their servers.
Very much so.
Okay.
There's a lot of information where we are here in Canada, it is still saved in American servers. And that's a whole other podcast, a whole other discussion. And we cover it in the courses because it's very in-depth.
Okay.
But the reality is Homeland Security can and has the right to, in the United States, go to the servers and tell them, I want all the files pertaining to Tamara Michèle.
Yep.
And they have to turn them over. They can't say, well, we got blah, blah. No, for Homeland Security, you have to. It's written into the American laws.
Yep.
There's something very similar in Canada. There's something very similar in England. There's something very similar that's blanketed for the entire EU except for Germany.
Okay.
That's the only caveat in the EU. But just because your information's up in the cloud, I'd recommend it when you're crossing the border. Here's my phone. Okay. Nothing's on my phone. Have a nice day. You've opened it. You've cooperated. Away you go.
Yeah.
The thing that I can't hammer home hard enough is you are a guest in these countries, regardless from where you are from. When you go to a new destination, you are a guest.
Well, behave like one.
And
right?
In any point in time, they can tell you to leave. No different than you go to a friend's house, and I'm going to use a really extreme thing and date myself. They recently stopped smoking. I don't smoke. We'll get that out of the way first.
Yep.
But they recently stopped smoking. And you come in looking for an ashtray. They're going to ask you to leave the house. Mm-hmm. They might be accommodating, but generally they're going to ask you to leave the house.
Yep.
Bye-bye. No different.
Yes.
And it doesn't just extend to technologies. Mm-hmm. Doesn't just extend to firearms. It doesn't just extend to clothing. It's very broad. And when you travel, you need to understand the rules of where you're going.
But that's a good example of like ignorance of the law,
yeah.
Right? Because things that we would take for granted, we know we can do here,
yeah.
Right? Safely and without any offense to anyone. And right? You can't do these things in other countries,
nope.
So, I mean, you think about a lot of that stuff and you just make sure you know where you're traveling, do your research. So now we're going to go to Heroes, which is our member portion of the show, which is free, and you can join us on YouTube.